I'll do it for them. Now we can start to see the overlaps of child sexual exploitation rearing its ugly head into this whole process. Okay? Now we've got our frontline runner, okay? And it's important to understand as well is that there's two ways I can go about recruiting that young person. The first being, I can recruit a young person from the local area in Coventry, where I'm from, or I can recruit a young person from the area in Shropshire, where I'm going to be operating the county line. And they're both beneficial, okay? One, I could recruit a young person from the Coventry area, because they may already know me and know my reputation, okay? And it'll be maybe easier for me to manipulate and groom that person. Or I could recruit a young person from the Shropshire area where we're setting up the county line, because the benefits to that are they will have local knowledge of the area that I may not know, like where the local alleyways are, the gullyways, what certain fields are active, where there's local police hotspots, where the local gangs are. All the information that I couldn't get during my reconnaissance period, that young person is going to know. And plus, a young person from the area where we're operating the county line is a blender. And what I mean by a blender is that young person from that local area isn't going to stand out. If I suddenly land 3 young people from, the Coventry area into Shropshire, they're going to be pretty baked. They'll probably stand out. The locals in the area, I'm not going to know who these people are. They may stand out like a sore thumb. But a young person from the local area in Shropshire isn't. They're going to blend in to that area. Then we have to look at the logistics. How are we going to move the young people across country? How are we going to traffic the young people down the M6? Okay, how am I going to pick up my drugs and deliver my drugs? And how am I going to pick up my money? Because at the end of the day, this all comes down to money. All right? Now, years ago, the main form of transport for these criminal groups and gangs were train lines. They would send young people, on the train with a one-way ticket across country. But then what happened was, county lines came to the forefront of public attention, just like I said, around 6 to 8 years ago, where everyday people started hearing about county lines, thanks to newspaper reports, thanks to news articles on the TV, thanks to things like Hollyoaks and programs like Top Boy. These things came to the forefront of public attention. So a young person travelling across country on their own with a one-way ticket, raised a lot of suspicion. Train staff at stations were told to look out for these signs and these red flags. British Transport Police suddenly became wise to a young person travelling on their own. So it became, very risky for these criminal gangs to move young people on trains. So what we're seeing today in 2024 and previous years is that these criminal groups and gangs are adapting the way they do this. And one of the ways we're seeing that they are using is that they're using, private hire firms, things like Bolt and Uber, okay, to move these young people across country. All right? So it's still happening, but they're just adapting and changing, As the police and law enforcement agencies and as agencies work together and become smarter, so do these criminal groups and gangs. Okay? And that is the process that goes into operating and setting up a county line. And for each line that I have, I will do the same process time after time. So if I have 10 lines, for instance, okay, I will do this 10 times. I'm going to need 10 locations. I'm going to need 10 places of operation, 10 warehouses that I can sit and operate from. I'm going to need 10 phone lines. I'm going to need at least 10 frontline members of staff, young people, to sell my drugs for me. And I'm going to need to work out the logistics of 10 different locations. So, there's a lot of things that goes into operating a county line, a huge amount. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you as well is, the scale of this, just how big of an issue this actually is. Because, sometimes, if you're not involved firsthand, you don't actually understand the impact that it has. But this was an exercise done to show individuals linked to county lines in a 12-month period, okay? And what they found was that Norfolk, okay, had the highest number of individuals linked to county lines activity. So what that basically means is that in Norfolk, okay, in that constabulary forces area, right, there was 416 individuals linked to this activity that I'm talking about today. So think about that for a minute. That sometimes numbers just get thrown around. But think of it like this. That's 416 potentially young people that have been groomed, manipulated and coerced into dealing drugs for an organised criminal group again. That's 416 young people, okay, that have been trafficked across country, maybe. That's 416 families that now have been affected. Because let's face it, okay, when a young person is recruited or gets involved or is manipulated and coerced and groomed into this lifestyle, it doesn't just affect that young person, okay? It has a huge knock-on effect on the family too. There's been incidences of cases where I've worked with a young person who's involved in county lines, okay, that has to be moved out of local area by social services and police because there's a threat to life on that young person. And it's not just the young person that moves. The mum moves, the dad moves, you know, the little brother, the little sister moves, okay? And when we look at that as a family dynamic, you know, mums and dads are having to change jobs or lose their jobs, having to find work in different areas, you know, young people having to change schools. So it has a huge impact, okay? Behind every number or every statistic is a real person. And I just want you to really understand that. Because a lot of times, you know, me as a professional, we get a lot of numbers and a lot of data, but behind every number and every bit of data, there's always a real human being. So let me ask you this question. Why would a young person even want to get involved in this lifestyle? And there's lots of different reasons why, okay? We have to look at this question on a case-by-case basis because what the answer is for one young person isn't going to be the same for another young person. But what I can say is that with the advances of the internet and things like social media, okay, this sort of lifestyle has been glamorized to the fullest extent, okay? And a lot of the time, what I mean by that is, you know, a lot of young people, okay, will see things on social media like Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever it may be, okay, and they will see criminal groups and gangs or even influencers who are involved in this lifestyle posting online with big stacks of money, big pieces of jewelry, nice cars, okay? And it's becoming normal for them to see that. And then this lifestyle is slowly glamorized to them, you know? I once delivered a workshop in a school in Birmingham, okay? There was a fatal incident that happened in a school in Birmingham where a young person was murdered outside of the school gates. And I went to deliver a session after that incident happened around knife crime. And the reason why I did it, because I just wanted to, you know, gauge the impact that I had on those students. And I asked the question to the group. I said, you know, how does it make you feel that, you know, a peer of yours, a friend of yours that came to the school has been murdered? And a 14-year-old person put their hand up and said, Liam, it's normal. It's normal, you know? It's normal for young people to die now. And that really took me back, okay? But for some young people, that is their reality. They believe that it's normal to carry a knife. Some young people believe that it's glamorous to sell drugs. Some young people think that it's okay to earn £100 a day to go across country for somebody else, to put themselves at serious risk and harm, okay? Possibly end up with a criminal record or to be arrested, put the risk of being shot or stabbed, run the risk of being away from their family for a week at a time, for what, £100 a day? And when we break that £100 a day down, then, you know, they're not working an 8-hour shift with a lunch break, okay? Sometimes they're working 24 hours straight, non-stop, dealing drugs. And when you really break that down to a young person and say, you know, that £100 a day that you're working, okay, 24 hours a day for £100 a day, that works out to like £4.16 an hour. Believe me, check your maths, okay? It's £4.16 an hour. And when you really deep it to a young person, there's people that work in McDonald's, Tesco, Asda, JD that earn more money than that. And when you sit down with a young person and you really show them, actually for that £100, you're putting yourself way at risk and you're actually earning less than minimum wage, okay? There's nothing glamorous or normal about that. You are actually being exploited. And that's what it comes down to. These young people are being exploited, okay? These groomers and predators, okay, are using young people's vulnerabilities to their advantage to exploit them. And what we have to do as parents, as professionals, and as practitioners, is we have to highlight to young people, you know, this fact that, you know, actually, these groomers and predators who are you looking up to, actually, they're exploiters. They're using you to do their dirty work for them. They're putting you at serious risk of harm. The infographic you can see on your screen of the grooming line, okay, wasn't developed by St. Giles, but we use it. And it was actually developed by the children's charity Barnardo's in relation to sexual exploitation. But what we can do is we can use this grooming line and put it in front of any form of exploitation, because it all works the same. You know, whether it's criminal exploitation, child exploitation, or sexual exploitation, it's the same 4-step process that happens. There's the targeting stage, a friendship stage, or a friendship forming stage, a loving stage, then ultimately the abusive stage. Now, the loving stage doesn't always have to be something sexual. You know, when I show young people this slide and I say the loving stage, they start giggling. And I say, no. Don't see this, you know, as something sexual, young people. See it as the trust stage, okay? Because somebody may target you, may build up a strong connection and a friendship up with you, then ultimately gain your trust, then eventually comes the abusive stage. And the abusive stage doesn't have to be something physical. It can be something mental, okay? It could be forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do. The abusive stage looks so different to so many different people. All right, and what I want to do is really quickly, I want to give you, you know, a real human twist on this and give you a real life scenario of how the grooming line actually works. So I was born and bred in Coventry on a council estate, not too far from where I work in the office in Coventry. I was brought up by a single parent, my mum. My dad was actually in prison before I was born. But when I was 13 years old, my mum passed away, okay? I went to go live with an older sister to start with, but then I just became unruly at the time. And what ended up happening was I ended up going into the care system. Okay, but what I ended up doing was I kept on running away from the care system, coming back to the same estate that you know, where I grew up. And when I kept on coming back, what ended up happening was the elders in my estate knew what happened to me. They knew what I'd gone through, and I was their perfect targeting. You know, I was prime pickings for that criminal group or gang. And what they did was, over a period of a few months and years, was they built a friendship up with me, got me to the stage where, you know, I could trust them and I was willing to do absolutely anything for them, okay? You know, I was willing to commit serious crimes to these people. You know, I was willing to deal drugs for these people, okay? But then what happened was I started dealing drugs for these people in this whole county line scenario. You know, I was groomed into operating a county line, okay? And then what ended up happening was I ended up losing a large amount of drugs for this criminal group or gang. Now, at the time, I thought it would be okay. I didn't think that this criminal group or gang would be bothered by me losing a few £1,000s of the drugs. But oh, how wrong I was. Okay? This criminal group or gang told me that if I didn't pay the money back for the drugs that I'd lost, I'd be seriously hurt. And subsequently, what ended up happening was I was set up and stabbed 8 times. And when the police approached me after the incident where I was stabbed, okay, and told me who instigated the stabbing or who they believed instigated me being stabbed, I couldn't believe them, because it was the same person that had targeted me, the same person that told me that he loved me, okay, that had my back, the same person I looked up to as a father figure, the same person who, you know, I felt safe around, the same person who filled the void that I had missing in my life, you know. At that time, when I was 14, 15, you know, I wanted a sense of belonging, a sense of family, a sense of, you know, belonging to something, that sense of camaraderie. And these groomers and predators did that for me. And it wasn't until I was sitting in prison and I looked at this grooming line for the first time, it all made sense. Okay, yes, I was a perpetrator. I did commit crimes. But at some point, I was also a victim. You know, I was targeted at my most vulnerable point. You know, these fake friendships were forged. You know, that fake loyalty and that fake trust was built. And then ultimately, okay, I was forced into dealing drugs, okay? Yes, I probably could have said no, but I felt obliged that I had to pay back for all the nice things that these have done for me, for that security that they give me. Then ultimately, I paid the price by being stabbed over a small amount of cash when we, you know, really deep it and think about it. You know? And this happens for so many young people. And it isn't until a young person really sees this grooming line for themselves, okay, it isn't until then that, you know, the penny will drop, just like it did for me. And, you know, with the advances of the internet, social media and things like that, nowadays, these criminal groups and gangs don't have to hang outside local schools or shopping centres or in parks. These groomers and predators are online. Because where are most young people nowadays? Online. And these criminal groups and gangs and predators and groomers, they are actively targeting young people on social media like Instagram and Snapchat. There was an exercise done during COVID with different police forces that, developed a fake persona online, okay? Added lots of different young people as friends and then sent out a message asking these young people, we need 5 young people to go OT. We'll pay you £100 a day. Message me if you're interested. Basically, they sent out a message asking for 5 young people to go and deal drugs for them, and they paid them £100 a day. Within a 48-hour period, they had over 1,000 responses. 1,000 young people willing to go and earn £100 a day dealing drugs. And these young people didn't know the risk they were getting into. Okay? They didn't know where they would be going. All right? They didn't know who the groomer was. So for the groomer now, right, online, they can cut out the targeting stage and the friendship stage and just go straight to the abusive stage, thanks to social media. How many people on this call have a form of social media, right, and have had messages come to them saying, get rich quick. All we need is your bank details, £1,000 in your bank by the end of today. I've had the messages, and I know a lot of other people have the messages. Now, imagine being a young person, okay, coming from a deprived background, desperately wanting a new pair of trainers to fit in at school, and then you suddenly get that message. Okay? It's a real thing. But as parents, carers, practitioners, and as professionals, we really need to keep our finger on the pulse and educate our young people about this. Right? Now, when we look at, the grooming line and what makes somebody susceptible to being groomed, we have to look at what's called the condition of the heart. All right? Because what makes me vulnerable and what made me vulnerable isn't going to necessarily make you vulnerable. For me, it was that sense of family and that sense of belonging that I was so badly craving. Okay, that sense of, wanting to impress and wanting to be a part of something. For another person, it could be that they don't feel accepted by their peers. It could be, that whole glamorization and normalization, watching drill music videos at home or watching a certain program, or, listening to certain influencers, okay? It could be, that they've come from a trauma-based background. Okay? It could be that they have underlying mental health conditions, that haven't been diagnosed. It could be, that they have, serious financial problems. We all know with the cost of living crisis that's happening, it's leaving people destitute. And it's having a huge effect, not only families, but also on young people too. But what we have to do, okay, is we have to be aware of what makes each young person in our life vulnerable. Okay, and we have to plug into that missing piece before a groomer or predator does. Because it's really hard to get a young person back once a groomer or predator has stuck their claws in. Let me give you an example, all right? Let's say, for instance, I'm a groomer and I've groomed a young person. I've been buying this young person gifts. I've been buying them trainers. I've been sending them money for V-Bucks online. I've been buying them the latest PlayStation games or Xbox games. I've been giving them, credit to spend online for their Xbox or PlayStation. Then all of a sudden, a professional comes along and tells that young person, that Liam is a bad person. You need to be careful. That Liam has not got your best interest at heart. That young person is going to turn to that professional and tell them, who do you think you are? You're the bad person. You're coming in here now trying to turn me against Liam. Liam's done nothing but nice things for me. Right? And this is what these groomers and predators are very, very clever at doing. And county lines and this sort of thing doesn't just affect, one type of person. It affects everybody. Anybody is susceptible to this. Okay? It's really, really important that we understand that. And it's really, really important as parents, carers, and professionals that we keep the finger on the pulse, man. We keep engaged with our young people at all times. Right? If you notice changes in behaviours, we're there, we're on it, asking them what's wrong. Okay? We plug into that missing piece before a groomer or predator does, because it's really hard to get them back. There are different places you can go, okay, to get help and support and advice, if anybody is worried about a young person or worried about a family member or anybody. And we'll talk about this a bit later at the end when we get to the questions and answers. We're all about signposting and pointing people in the right direction for help and support. But what I want to do next for you is I really want to break down the realities and consequences, okay? Because this is something that we have to do, all right? And it's something that, we have to be aware of, right? Because a lot of the times, drug dealing, county lines, gangs, this sort of thing, this sort of lifestyle, it's sugar-coated in glitz and glamour on social media and in films and in documentaries. But young people do not understand the true realities and consequences they're getting themselves into. A lot of the times, these young people are groomed, manipulated and coerced into going to operate a county line. A lot of the times, their groom or predator will shower them with gifts, give them lots of money, then turn around to that young person and say, actually, do you know what? I need that money back. There's not many young people that I know that have £500 they could just give a stranger back. So what that groom or predator will do, will turn to that young person and say, actually, do you know what? Don't worry about paying me the money back. Just go OT for me for a couple of days. We'll wipe the debt clean and I'll pay you £100 a day. Okay? And, to a young person, that might seem quite enticing. All right? They get their debt white cleared. And also, okay, they get to earn some money. Right? Now, what this young person doesn't realise is that when they're sent to these, what we call trap houses, where the drugs are dealt, or these cocoon properties, okay, they're not walking into an Airbnb apartment or a nice big mansion, what they see online or in these music videos, with half-naked models walking around and, big stacks of money and people playing Xbox and PlayStation. No. What they're walking into a lot of times, okay, is what we call a trap house or a crack den. Or a cocoon property. And a lot of the times they look like the pictures you can see on your screen. And believe it or not, the pictures you can see on your screen are quite PG, okay? Yes, they are bad, but they are not some of the worst ones that I've seen, right? And these young people will be forced to stay up for up to, 72 hours at a time on some occasions, working 24 hours non-stop making sales. And if they miss the sale, then that sale that they've missed will be deducted from the money that they're supposed to be earning. And we see a lot of times, these criminal groups and gangs will purposely set out to rob the young person of their drugs so they can keep them in debt and use them as free labor. There's been lots of incidences where young people will go out to pick up a consignment of drugs off their older or their boss, walk around the corner and be robbed for those drugs. So those groomers can purposely keep them indebted and keep them as free labor so they can work off that debt. All right? They sometimes may be in these properties for up to a week at a time, all right, with no proper food, okay? A lot of the times these properties, the drug user who owns the property isn't prioritising hygiene or paying the bills. Okay, so a lot of the times there's no electricity, there's no running water. There's been occasions where, in some properties that I experienced where there was no flush on the toilet, so people were having to go to the toilet for ones and twos in the bath. Okay, it may be a spot for where, prostitutes or sex workers will bring clients back. All right, there'll be dirty needles lying on the floor. There may be mice or rats or other rodents, cockroaches. Okay, and this is where our young people are being sent to. Okay, in a lot of occasions forced to go and deal drugs from these properties. All right? Not only do they have to run the risk of all these things, but they also run the risk of rival gangs and other drug users possibly robbing them. All right? Because when I had that bright idea earlier at the beginning of setting up a county line in Shropshire, do you think that I'm the only gang member that had that same idea? Of course I didn't. There may be other gangs all operating in that same place. And it's not me that's putting myself at risk. It's the young people. It's the young people that I recruit, that are putting themselves at serious serious risk of harm. Okay? Family members may be targeted if a young person tries to run away. All right? There's always runs the risk of serious injury because these rival gangs, they're not coming in and robbing the drugs, with a feather duster tickling them. They're coming in with like firearms and zombie knives and machetes. And there's been incidences of clients of ours that we mentor and work with that have been seriously hurt, okay, stabbed, beaten, so on and so forth. So it is really horrendous what these young people, the situations they may be put in. And then also, these young people run the risk of being arrested, end up with a criminal record. All right, because a lot of the times it is the victims that get prosecuted. It's the victims that are on the front line. All right, so some of the signs and indicators to look out for. All right, and as parents, as carers, and as professionals that are on this call, it's my job to keep you best informed, educated on this topic. so you really understand what is happening. But I would be doing you all a disservice if I didn't talk about the indicators and the signs to look out for. You know, and this isn't the be all and end all. These are just some of the most common things that I tell people to look out for. Okay? The first one is an astonishing fact, and that is that 87% of missing children in the UK are attributed to CCE, you know, child criminal exploitation, and county lines, what I've been talking about today. That's a crazy number. You know, nearly 9 out of every 10 young people who go missing are attributed to what I've been talking about today. Okay? Another sign, you know, is young people being in possession of disposable phones, those burner phones. You know, it's 2024. Young people are wanting to be accessing, you know, social media on their phones, YouTube on their phone. There's no real reason why a young person would have a disposable phone unless they've been given a specific order that bans them from using a smartphone, or, you know, their parents might be getting their smartphone fixed, for instance. But, you know, we shouldn't criminalize a child just because they display one of these signs, okay? But if a child is displaying one or more of these signs, then we definitely have to investigate. You know, use our professional curiosity. You know, or you know, it's better to be safe than sorry. Always dig a bit deeper. You know, if someone comes home with a disposable phone and a large amount of cash, we need to be on that straight away. Where have you got that from? You know, who does that belong to? We have to be very smart in how we handle the situation. You know. New expensive belongings, you know, it goes without saying, if young people are rocking up with expensive clothes and jewelry and watches, and, you know, they can't, you know, explain where they've got them from, then we need to be investigating why, you know, and raising that appropriately. You know, being in possession of certain drug paraphernalia, like little sealy bags, cling film that they wrap the drugs in, scales to weigh the drugs on, you know. If they are in possession of these things, they're probably not baking a cake. All right, they probably are involved in something more sinister. So again, we have to pressure why, where, who are you involved with, and then look at safeguarding that young person the best way that we can. All right, young people are very clever. Okay, they're very clever. They all use different slang terminologies and different words. Right, you'll be very surprised. I try and stay relevant because of the job that I do. But sometimes when I go into schools, these young people know so many different words. It makes me feel so old. It really, really does. But one of the things that we developed at SOS Person St. Giles is a slang dictionary. And we update this every 12 months. And the slang dictionary is free to anybody, you know, that sits on this session. And inside that slang dictionary, it will have the slang term, okay, the meaning behind it, and then some context, that slang term in a sentence. All right? And that is free to anybody that wants it. I will leave my email address in the chat box at the end, so if anybody wants to message me, feel free. But one of the big things that we really need to keep an eye on is the changing in behaviours, you know, the change of affiliations and friends. Okay? This is a big one. If we know our child is normally, okay, outgoing, wanting to always be out, and all of a sudden they're staying in, and they're not acting themselves, then ask them why, what's going on. It could be nothing. It could be absolutely nothing at all, but it could be something happening. All right, there could be something more sinister at play. All right, and it's all about investigating. And again, changing our friends. Why? Why have they changed friends? Who are the friends? Oh, you want to stop out this person's house? Okay, let me come with you. All right, I'll drop you off. I don't have any children of my own. Okay, I have young nephews, and you know, I'm really close to my nephews. And if my nephews ask me, I'm going to stay out with friends, believe me, I would take my nephews to that address. I want to know who the mum and dad are, where the mum and dad work, you know, what address they are, what car they drive, what time I'm dropping them up, what time am I picking them up. I want to know all of this stuff, okay? And it's about just being on it with the young people, okay? Let them know that nothing will go undetected. And then it's about keeping an eye on their behaviours, all right? What is actually going on with that young person. And, you know, young people nowadays are under a lot of stress, okay? I would find it really hard to grow up in 2024 nowadays with things like social media, you know, and all the stresses that young people have nowadays, you know, fitting into society, this whole like culture that we have. It's really, really hard for young people. And then the pressures they have at school, you know, performing well, you're trying to get their grades, trying to, you know, do well for themselves, but also their family and teachers and stuff. So there's a lot of things that happens and a lot of things that young people go through. So it's about just being engaged with them, you know, keeping an eye on them and asking if there's anything we can do to help them. So before I finish, there's one more thing that I want to talk about, you know, and it's how do we help young people get out of this situation, and what can we do for parents, carers, so on and so forth. All right. I'm biased to the lived experience model because I am a mentor with that lived experience. Okay, so I am going to be biased about it. I work for a great organisation, you know, who've given me a second chance. All right. But what I say to young people is there's always an opportunity to get out. There's always an opportunity to change. And what I say to people is, you know, you can't expect somebody to change unless you give them something to change to. We can't expect a young person to change overnight without offering them something to work towards. Okay? And things take time, all right? If a young person is entrenched in this lifestyle, okay, they can get out, but it may just take time. And what I mean by timing as well is that it may not be the right time right then and there for that person to make that change. It's about keeping the door open and letting them know, you know, we're ready when you are. Okay? Another big thing is about the multi-agency working. Okay? I can't state this enough. There isn't one agency that's going to do this by themselves. There isn't one agency that's going to stop county lines by themselves. Trust me, there's not. The police won't do it. Social workers won't do it. St. Giles is not going to do it. It's going to take a collaborative effort, you know, working holistically together. Everybody, you know, we're all cogs in a huge machine, and it's about working together. We all have the purpose. Yeah, we all do good things, but it's about working together, working cohesively as one to help change that young person's life. Proper achievable action plans. Yeah, let's set them up to succeed, not to fail. Okay? Positive activities and positive alternatives, positive engagement, you know, giving a young person, okay, a different outlook to look at things. For instance, really quickly, I had a young person that I was working with a couple of years ago who had operated a county line for himself. This young person was selling drugs, okay, moving a product, you know, had people working for him. And I said to that young person, you know, you have so many transferable skills, it's unreal. You've run your own business. You've sold and moved the product. You've people managed. You've time kept. You've dealt with money administration. You've got so many transferable skills. Let's use that, but channel it into something positive. Okay? Let's use what you've done, okay, and channel it into something positive and get positive results out of it. And then obviously, on the back of that, yes, we have to support the young person, but we also need to work with the family, okay, that wraparound support. Sometimes, you know, some families aren't open to that, but we have to leave that door open. Again, it's all about timing. But what we have to do is, if we're working with a young person, we also have to work with the family as well. We have to offer that wraparound support. You know, it's about that holistic approach. So what I want to do next is just say this, okay, before I go into the questions and answers, okay? And that is, you know, to parents out there, all right? And that is, you know, if you do know somebody that may be at risk of what I've been talking about today, go and seek help and advice, all right? There's lots of different agencies out there where you can go, all right? And yeah, some people may be nervous, you know, that they don't want to criminalize their child, all right? We've had cases where people haven't raised it because they don't want to be seen as a bad parent. Okay, they don't want to run the risk of, you know, losing custody, you know, of their other children, or having their child excluded from school. Okay, what I would say is, okay, yes, these are risks, but doing nothing is way more dangerous. Okay, you have to talk to people. Okay, open that channel of communication, because there are agencies out there that can help and support. All right, believe me, there is. All right? And again, if we're working together, you know, parent, and different agencies, okay, we can make that positive change for that young person. All right? I just want to thank you all so much for listening to me. I know it's a lot to take in. You know, this is an hour session, and I do like different length sessions. You know, I do this session for 2 hours and 3 hours, and it's a lot to cram into an hour. So I'm really, really grateful for everybody. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I want to go to some questions if anybody has some. Let's have a look. Somebody's got their hand up. Yeah, Nicola.
Hi, it's Nicola Yates. I'm the Cadet Youth Engagement Officer for the Sandwell Cadets in the police. And that was a really interesting hour. It's a shame we didn't have longer, because I think everybody would really like to listen more to that. I know some people have put in the chat about the copy of the slides. is there any way you can share them with us? Because there's some of those slides that I'd like to show to my cadets during Council Minds Week next week. Is that possible?
Yeah, so what we do is for copyright reasons, we don't share the actual presentation of the slides. We share it as a PDF version. And they're watermarked with obviously the St. Giles logo and stuff, but they're free to have, you know, for you to share and to use in your own capacity. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's no problem at all. What I would do is
before next week, because I've got some talks next week for my cadets, because it's the County Lines Week. So it would be nice if I could have them before Wednesday, if possible.
What I'm going to do is the organisers of this, the VIP, is I'm going to share with the organisers the PDF version of the slides, and I'll make sure everyone that's on attendance gets a copy of them. I'm going to put my email address in the chat as well, really quickly. And if you haven't had them by Friday, email me and I'll send them over. But I'll make sure that everyone gets them.
Thank you very much indeed.
No problem. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Okay. Has anybody got any other questions? I've got lots of comments, people saying thank you. And like I said, it's a lot to cram into an hour, right? I could literally be here for 3 or 4 hours going into depth on every single slide, right? I'm really limited to time. But yeah, it's a lot to take in, but I really appreciate you all joining for the hour. There will be other opportunities later in the year for other sessions as well. So if anyone wants to join that, feel free to email me. I can share different links out for sessions that I run throughout the year too.
Liam, sorry, my name's Deborah, and I work with children missing education. And I just wanted to really mind a comment to you, really, to say, you know, massive kudos to you for, you know, where you came from, turning your life around, and then instilling and helping young people today. You know, I think that's brilliant. I think that's amazing. I just wanted to ask a question, though. I'm just intrigued. What do they use the Vaseline for?
Okay. The Vaseline is used in the plug-in and banking process.
Oh.
Okay, so what I spoke about earlier, where people will hide contraband in illicit items in back passages and private parts. That's what the Vaseline is used for.
Okay, I see, right. So, because like we're saying, if you've seen it on a young person, because we tend to use it, I have one in my bag, my children do, for, you know, for creaming their hands and their lips.
But this is where it opens up the gates of conversation, because those signs and indicators that I showed you, right, isn't the be-all and end-all. Just because a young person is displaying one of those signs doesn't mean that they're automatically up to no good, okay? Right? Just because a young person is in possession, you know, of Vaseline doesn't mean that they're involved in moving drugs around the country. Just because a young person is in possession of a mask or a snood doesn't mean that they're up to no good, all right? We have to look at it contextually, what is actually happening with that young person. Have they been going missing, all right, for one? What's their, you know, attitude like at school? Has it changed? You know, are they suddenly in possession of, you know, expensive clothes and money and items? You know, are they talking in code on phones? Are they in possession of multiple phones? And then you can start putting the pieces together based on multiple signs and indicators. But again, it's looking at it on a case-by-case basis. So again, we've got to be really careful that we don't criminalise young people. I'll give you an example really quickly. I was in a school the other week, and I was waiting in the hallway to go in to do an assembly. And as these young people were walking past me, I heard the old Nokia ringtone go off. Straight away, I thought, why is a young person in possession of that phone? There's no need for them to have it. And it turns out, after further investigating, that this young person and many other young people in that school are in possession of these burner phones to make it look like they're involved in something as a fashion statement. So young people are carrying disposable burner phones along with their smartphone to make it seem like they're up to something. You know, it's become almost like a fashion accessory to have. And, you know, if I didn't investigate that thoroughly, that young person could have been criminalised or you know, demonised for having that. All right? So it's about us looking at it contextually on a case-by-case basis. why are they doing it? Why have they got these things? And is there a more, innocent answer to it? But again, it's all case by case. But yeah, I was absolutely shocked when I heard that ringtone go off. It blew me back.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem at all. I've had lots of nice comments from people coming in. Yeah, I just want to thank you all for joining. So lots coming to an hour, but like I said, there will be other opportunities when I deliver like a long form session on this. So yeah, I'll make sure everyone's updated on that throughout the year. Has anybody got any other questions?
Yeah, can I just ask? Yeah. Are more white kids involved in this, or does it?
It affects everybody. Like I said in the slide, there isn't one demographic that this affects. Okay, it all depends on area, I suppose. If I'm going to operate a county line in a white, affluent, prominent area, then I'm going to want a white young person to go and operate, because again, I want them to blend in. So it all just depends on, one, the criminal group or gang, the young people available, the area where we're going to, and it doesn't just affect one specific cohort of young people, it affects, all young people and all people alike. It's not indifferent. There's no prejudice when it comes to county lines.
Okay. Do you do anything on, because you're talking about these the drug dealers, and they've got like 10 different lines, they've got 10 different factories. Because I'm thinking, to get that kind of property, there would be somebody higher than the drug dealers. Do you look into anything like that, like organizations that are actually involved in this? Because to actually set up something like that strategically, you've got to have somebody with more money than you, more savvy than you, more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like, my job is to raise awareness around this, from my own personal background and stuff. But, when we're talking about drug dealing, okay, and we're talking about county lines, generally speaking, it's, organised criminal groups and gangs from, like, within inner cities that use young people to go out. But then what I think you're looking at is the next level, the higher echelon, like the serious organised crime groups who are maybe linked to cartels who are bringing the drugs in. I mean, if somebody had 10 lines, for instance, okay, these burner phones only cost 10, 20 quid, so it's not a huge outlay to put out to get these burner phones, but it all just depends on the savvy and how, how criminally minded these people are. But when we talk about drug dealing, there's so many different levels to it.
Yeah.
And there's some drug dealers that don't operate in county lines. They just stay in the city and their patch. But then you have other drug dealers who are on a huge scale, who are bringing in millions of pounds worth. And, along with that, they're bringing in firearms into the country. So it's all relative into where we're looking at. But for me, delivering this session, we're looking at the criminal groups and gangs who are operating drug dealing lines and using young people and traffic coming across country. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Liam. I've got a lot more, but I know other people want to actually speak, so thank you very much.
No problem. Joanne?
Hi, Liam. I just want to thank you for this session. It's fantastic. And what you've just echoed regarding, the positivity that you're giving back to these children, your timekeeping, your money management, they have skills that they don't even know about, because society's always been down on them. I used to work in a young offenders. I used to work at Swinfen Hall. And when it was in there, it was all about PLPs. You need your personal learning plans and stuff like that, rather than, okay, what's this kid be good at? Let's push him for their maths and English. You know what I'm talking about. But it's about actually getting to know that kid. I mean, I wasn't a prison officer. I was an IAG advisor, so I used to help you guys in, employment, training, any opportunities, but also help upon release. So I used to write disclosure letters where you weren't hanging yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to say the poo sandwich, but positive, you know, it's what the person had actually achieved. They can do this, you know. Yes, they were convicted of this. However, since, you know, and I think, I mean, do you ever feel, talking with the lads that I used to work with, and I used to get on really well with them, as you can tell, came across professional, but like on their level. Do you feel that you were let down by services before you got to where you was? Do you think that, I mean, we're all agencies here. I'm now an antisocial behaviour practitioner, so I'm trying to keep the kids out of the penal systems. Like before, you know, the ASB, it's starting, and I'm working with these kids now, male and female, 10 to 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
As an honest question, because I'm hearing a familiar thing, do you feel you were let down?
Me personally, no, I don't. I don't think I was. I think that, you know, at the time, the services that were involved just weren't relatable. Like, you know, my social worker that I had, God bless him, was just not relatable to me at all. You know, I just did not have anything in common. There was no common ground. There was just nothing, you know. And I think things have changed over the last, you know, 25 years or so to where, you know, that there's been more focus on the young person, okay? But I don't feel like anybody let me down, you know. That's in hindsight, that's if, buts, whatever. But what I do really back, and I am really passionate about, is that lived experience model, right?
Yeah.
Having people who have walked in them shoes, who are really relatable. You know, we go into schools and we walk, talk, dress, and act like these young people, you know, and the people who they look up to, that we're offering them, you know, the no nonsense.
Yeah.
No BS talk, you know, this, if you want to get involved, this is what you can expect. And I think sometimes, you know, that hits hard a lot of the times, but some professional agencies have a tough job, you know, their back's against it, you know, and a lot of times they may have, you know, time-bound things where they have to engage that young person within a certain amount of time, and sometimes it takes 3 or 4 months for a young person to even pick up the phone and talk, you know, or even to open up. So, yeah, it's really difficult, but no, I don't think I was let down. I just think it's all about timing. At that time, you could put anything in front of me.
Yeah.
I wanted to do what I wanted to do. You know, my loyalties lied with my groomers and predators at that time. You know, my olders. So yeah.
Bless you. That's so honest. Sorry, I kind of.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Guys, I ranted on. I just thought, you know, from my work experience and personal lived experience as well. You know, I've chose the jobs that I have for a reason. You know, I want to keep these kids out the penal system. I've got a real passion for it, and again, the lived experience and not, you know, approaching them on their level, because that's what matters, and that's how you're going to get that engagement, isn't it? But sorry to keep you for so long, but thank you, Liam. I really appreciate that. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is if no one has any more questions, I'm going to close the meeting, because I know I've overrun and, you know, people have other commitments to do. But again, whoever's left on the call, I can't actually see who's left. I just want to thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Don't forget to check the chat, because a lot of people want the slang dictionary.
Yeah, I'll get that sorted. No problem. The slang dictionary will be sent out along with the slides. No problem at all.
You've been amazing. You really have. And to be vulnerable like that and share your testimony, it just gives people hope.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. That's what I'm about. It's about being honest.
Fabulous. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liam.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Liam. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Liam. Very interesting. Well done.
Thank you, Julie. Cheers.
Thank you very much. It's been great.
Cheers, Paula. Thank you. Take care, yeah?
Yeah, and you, love.
And then you've got Earl's.
Thank you. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Done?
Just one down. I've got 2 more to do now.
What today?
Yeah, I've got evening ones to do later on. So I've got to go to school now. You enjoyed that, yeah?
Yeah.
It's only for an hour though, isn't it? You can't get your teeth into it.
Don't have the mileage for that. So, we have done it before, but I can't remember the mileage. So I think it's only there. And it's over. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Don't know, but about 3 miles, I'll say. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. No, Earls, Neutros twice. Warsaw twice. No, that's cool. Yeah. And then just pointing across. Yeah. Yeah. And so what date? The rest that you got there. What date do you take off? Because yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So what you have to do then, yeah, once it's been paid, yeah, you have to say after 21st, that is that next window where it comes out of. That makes sense. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Right. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that was on the 21st. So the next window, when did it start? So that next page is where it starts from. Yeah. So when we made that payment, what was that payment up until? That's what I'm trying to say. No, that's the money I took out. Yeah. But that that's when I took out. That 21st of A, or 23rd. That's everything before that date. Yeah, from that day. So the next page is that's everything I'm owed now. Yeah. No. Okay. Okay then. Okay, we'll do that in a bit then. Yeah, just keep that figure and then that I'll probably take that out the stability. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. 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 I'll pay that. Yeah. I will do that today. Just send me cause my phone's. Hold on, I'm gonna get my phone. 1 second. Finish. 1 second. Yeah, I can do it now. Let me do it now so you get out of the way. Hello? Hello?
I've just checked with the dentist.
Yeah.
1,600.
Is it? Wow. So we'll have to wow. So what was the 300 for then? What was the 300 for? Wow. And you can't get it underneath that. You can't get it underneath national. How much you want the pay care pay? How much money you got left for the pay care? So yes. So you got 300, so that comes up to 1,000 quid. Yeah, but who makes it right? We put it on a credit card, but when we asked the lady, she said it was £300. Yeah, I mean, we told them no, we're paying for it at reception. Yeah, so we'll have to call back to them and sort something out. So I'm on a meeting at the moment. Yeah. Okay then. Okay then. Yeah. All right. Bye.